The esoteric and occult is undeniably fascinating. Through its existence, artists of all disciplines have drawn inspiration for their own unique pieces and artwork. If it weren't for the growing interest in these strange microcultures that have been shared across the world, art like this would not be as prevalent as it is today. Only when they reach the end will the patrons be able to attempt to decipher what elements had been used in their process. By taking 1,000 berries from 1,000 different bushes, we are left with a one-of-a-kind blend. The genres are the same and have existed prior, yet the execution and end result stands proud against rehashed work and uninspired dreck. Many colony simulators and roguelites have been released over the years. Looking beyond the titans of the genre, The Binding of Isaac, Dead Cells, and Oxygen Not Included, we find lesser-known, still rich gems. Brutal Orchestra, Cultist Simulator, Frostpunk, and Duskers, to name a few. These offer exceptional experiences that are rarely found elsewhere, and with such a quality to match. These presentable exceptions exist to prove that incorporating even a single abstract idea can make a title stand out on its own. Often, it is the seemingly most absurd choices that become the most enjoyable and memorable aspects of your piece. These same traits are the ones that continue to drive the interest of outsiders and returning patrons alike. In our case, a blend of the two aforementioned genres, with a dark flair, will be our point of study. Care and critters, rituals and revenge, crusade and cults, viscera and vindication of your righteous cause. Various attributes lending themselves to something remarkably unique. Developed by Massive Monster and published by Devolver, Cult of the Lamb comes as a welcome addition to both the roguelite and colony sim genres. Cult of the Lamb incorporates elements of esotericism and cosmic horror with a touch of comfort. Despite the visuals being predominantly cute and comforting, our goals will be reached using a malevolent road and violent approach. But what is our goal? And better yet, why are we here to begin with? The introduction to the land of the old faith is anything but pleasant. Marched down a cold stone path to be executed like countless others prior. Towering over us to oversee the ceremony, the four bishops of the old faith, gloating over our demise and the fate they believe to have sealed. Kneeling on the chopping block, we make the executioner's job that much easier. A single swing is all that is needed. A new land, or perhaps one as old as time itself. Fog as white as the bone littered about, chains descending from the sky, or perhaps reaching from the ground, and large wooden sigils left sunk into the ethereal mist. The only immediate contrast to this world is the same ritualistic stone we had been beheaded on. The ground is wet, a layer of water concealed by the mist, each step disrupting the silence that befell this place eons ago. In the distance are three figures, who make no motions for you to approach them. Given the circumstances, what choice do we have? Of the figures, two still imposing felines stand to the side of one greater. Whereas one is clad in black robes and a thin veil, with an eye blinded by whatever left their scar, the other remains just as disgruntled, while being dressed inversely. White robes, sigils inverted to that of his equal, and both eyes functioning behind their veil. As for the third, more compelling individual, a monster, a god, our savior, the one who waits. He bears some similarities to those who accompany him, a robe with a red streak down the center, a veil, and a feline appearance. However, this is where the similarities end. Long grisly arms akin to that of a skeleton drip black viscous fluid. He had been dressed in shackles, and copious numbers of chains constricting him, preventing his movement. A third eye is concealed behind his larger, much thicker veil, and on his head, the red crown. He beckons us forward. With a foreboding voice, he informs us that we are indeed dead. This plays to both our advantage and his, as the 4 bishops who sent us to our death foolishly brought us to the doorstep of the one they fear most. The one who waits requires our assistance, and in return, they will resurrect us under one condition. This question has a single, irrefutable answer. Upon making our difficult selection between yes and absolutely, the red crown is passed on to us, and we are made his vessel like many before us. An instrument of vengeance and pain, and a pact with death himself. The following moments of violence are interrupted by a rat with a similar stature and background to our own. Ratoo, crowned with a paper imitation of what he once possessed long ago. He claims to have been instructed to guide us through these treacherous woods to safety. From this point onward, Ratoo will act as our mentor, teaching us the necessary skills to bolster our ranks, build our cult, and what to expect in this world. And before we know it, we've reached our exit, a red sigil which allows the bearer of the red crown to traverse impossible distances. Our first destination will be a crumbling ruin, the same place where Ratoo had once called his own. Our esoteric endeavors in this deceptive world begin here, among the rubble and overgrowth. Having prepared for our future crusades into the various domains of the old faith, we will find ourselves gathering resources, interrupting sacrifices, encountering people of interest, and dueling aggressive adversaries. Materials collected are, predictably, used to improve the cult and complete some quests. As for people of interest, there are many you will come across in your journey. We will go over a few standout individuals. Ratoo, brother of Ratoo. Long ago, he lost his heart, taken by her. Who exactly she is never revealed, however. His sorrow is felt through the melodies, wishful thoughts spoken aloud, and his empty voice. Ratoo wishes only to retrieve his heart so he may see her once more. He's fished up many hearts, none of which are the one he searches for. Clauneck, a mystic who supplies us with tarot cards when we venture out into the world. This is a considerably minor aspect of Clauneck's grand purpose. Where he truly shines is in his storytelling. Following each victory against a bishop, he cites a line from a scripture that invites us to think of what we may face during our adventure. And lastly, Heru. Whereas Clauneck tells a tale of alleged fate, Heru recites the history of the land and its gods. Holding a certain similarity to the bishops, she is frighteningly knowledgeable. Although her speech is strictly of Old English, her information is clear. Eons ago, these lands were rife with gods and their adherents. What befell this pantheon? Alas, 'tis the nature of beasts to forget, and of gods to be forgotten. Mayhap they left, mayhap they slept, mayhap they devoured, and were devoured in turn. Those few who remained spread roots, spun webs, molded this world to meet them and theirs. 'Twere a land of many gods once, hundreds. Now, the remaining gods, Leshy, Hecate, Kalamar, and Shimura, rule over their respective regions of this world. From dense forests to dubious pelagic depths, they are omnipresent, constantly aware of our activities. Leshy, hidden among his dark forests and shrubbery, is relatively young in comparison to his siblings, despite being the youngest of the four, he is still an ancient deity, one of which we must destroy. Playing to our advantage is his careless and arrogant behavior, believing himself to be the first and only wall required to hold you back. But like with anything, it never lasts. Storming through Darkwood, we desecrate effigies, slaughter believer and beast alike, only to reach the entrance of his temple. Inside will be the Great Worm, awaiting our arrival. This pattern is not exclusive to the first locale, it is a constant across them all. The main focus here is not the task, but the scenery and deities themselves. Darkwood is littered with massive mounds of the dead, and those lucky few who were strung up on dead trees. Effigies, statues, symbols, and ruins are dotted about the stage as a reminder of times long ago. Anura, blessed with permanent warm autumn colors and a variety of mushrooms, the most monolithic of them being used as points of sacrifice. Anchor Deep is a place in which the physics of water do and don't apply. Skeletal remains restricted by ropes attempt to reach the surface, if there is one for that matter. The exact physical makeup of this region is not entirely clear, however, it is certainly the most unique of them all. Shimura's Silk Cradle is a place where imposing arachnids call home. The simplicity and complexity of cocoon and web. As for the gods themselves, we have already touched on Leshy and our benefactor from below. As for the others, resembling a bulbous frog, Hecate speaks volumes to a slit throat. Our interactions with her are brief, typically resulting in a famine being cast over our followers. Aside from the insults and punishment, she has little interest in discourse. The squid-like calamar, the most cowardly when in the presence of the Red Crown and its bearer. Despite being one of the most capable combatants of the four bishops, he shows unbridled fear of us, begging that we target Shimura first. If he is not fretting over our approach, he is letting a plague run through our cultists using the same method as Hecate. Whether we save him for last or not, we will inevitably reach Silk Cradle. Shimura takes the form of a large spider. Like the others, something had been taken from Shimura. In her case, her mind. She was once a god of knowledge and wisdom. Of her own admission, this is no longer the case. The memories she once had been lost to her wound. Now Shimura repeats herself often, although the dialogue repeated is of great importance for what's to come. Out of the four bishops, Shimura is the most forthcoming one confronting you, speaking at lengths of the past and the one who waits, a former bishop of the old faith. Nerender, and what will become of them. 5 becomes 4, becomes 3, becomes 2, becomes 1, becomes nothing. Besides the gods and their domains, we have our own locale to inspect and interact with. Our cult can vary in its ethics, as can we. Banquets held in the temple for all of our followers to feast. Funeral services for the dead to be lain to rest, psychedelic trips to temporarily lock faith, or, conversely, arrange duels between followers where you may decide whether the victor should slay their opponent, sacrifice followers in the name of Nerender, or perhaps you would like to emulate a suicide cult through a vile concoction of feces and follower flesh. Whether you would prefer to be a loved or feared leader is ultimately up to you. Our place of work and worship is not the only organization in this world. Surrounding our cult's headquarters are several locations. The inhabitants of each location offer us opportunities to partake in various activities. Pilgrim's Passage, the first of the 5, allows us to fish on the seaside. Those that call this their home worship the lighthouse that sits on the shore. And, if we assist them in its repair, they will pledge themselves to us, offering faith beyond our own followers. To the east, Spore Grotto, a lively place home to the eccentric mushroom master Sozo. Here we may converse with Sozo in order to gain access to the previously referenced psychedelic trips. It is one of the many gifts that Sozo bestows us. Sozo himself is a tad paranoid, under the belief that his followers are plotting against him. With time, it appears he was correct after all. His followers' plot to murder had come to fruition, leaving Sozo a crumpled, rotting corpse on the ground. A miserable end to a paranoid man. Smuggler's Sanctuary is a smaller location, comprised solely of a dock. The smuggler, Plimbo, and his concerned-looking cargo fish are the only ones here. Plimbo gives us a quest to collect certain rarities in exchange for relics that we may find great use of. Whereas the other locations thus far have had moderately disturbing backstories surrounding them that we do not experience ourselves, Midas's Cave is an exception. Glittering gold litters every corner of this place, more wealth than there is dust. King Midas himself is an overtly greed-driven individual, offering us relics in exchange for wealth. However, this wealth he seeks is not met with meager coin. Sacrifices are required to produce what he desires most, golden statues of grotesque opulence. Although grotesque in their appearance, they are of no threat. However, if we were to consult pilgrims from Pilgrim's Passage, they will, on occasion, mention a visit they had made to the cave. They swear that they could hear whispers coming from the statues. Perhaps this fate is worse than the ritual sacrifices we have come across in our journey. And of course, Ratoo's home, the Lonely Shack. This is where Ratoo had spent many years in retirement after his departure from his cult. Here we can visit Ratoo and engross ourselves in the magical force of Knucklebones, a dice game of risk and reward. The true endgame to it all. There are a couple minor details that I would like to pay homage to before a final send-off. Several mini-bosses that we encounter on our way to the bishops share names with Goetic demons from the Lesser Key of Solomon. Barbados, Goosen, and Agaris to name a few. As some may have noticed from the achievement names, and the overarching themes, the 4 bishops, 5 if we include Nerender, share traits with the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. If what I have described is of any interest, I implore you to experience it yourself. Though I will give you fair warning. The game is fairly shallow and basic in its mechanics, as of right now at least. For those who would enjoy a unique and refreshing, albeit simple, experience, give it a go. There's a demo available on the Steam page, giving you a taste of what's there. That's all for now. Thank you for your time and support, no matter how brief. Have a pleasant day.